Good evening, and thank you for joining us for the 37th Annual Western Center on Lawn Poverty Garden Party. Tonight's program and honors would not be possible without you, our friends, donors, and sponsors. Tonight's MC is best known for his recurring role as Nurse Gregory on Grey's Anatomy. This advocate for human rights is also an actor, writer, and award-winning poet who created his one-man show, which opened to critical acclaim in New York and Los Angeles. Welcome, host of the 2021 Garden Party, Mr. Gordon James.
Good evening and welcome to Western Center on Lawn Poverty's 37th Annual Garden Party. My name is Gordon James. I've been on your screen before in Grey's Anatomy and private practice, but tonight I am thrilled to be your MC as we gather virtually to celebrate the incredible work of this year's Western Center honorees. But before we honor these remarkable advocates for justice, we have a special piece produced just for tonight's event, where we will hear the voices of staff, board members, funders, and community partners. We Are Western Center is the perfect way to kick off this evening's event and highlight the powerful work that is done by Western Center, made possible by all of you through your sponsorship of this event, donations throughout the year, and support of Western Center.
On Wednesday night, August the 11th, a crowd attracted by the arrest of a traffic violator grew unruly and difficult. Police action curbed but did not contain the disturbances that night. They flared and grew intensely over Thursday the 12th.
Western Center is different from a lot of the other organizations because actually Western Center represents the beginning of public interest law.
Western Center on Lawn Poverty's mission is to end poverty in California. We do that by addressing the causes and conditions that give rise to poverty. That includes structural racism, systemic oppression, and the legacies of a white supremacist culture.
We know that the work that Western Center is doing, along with an entire collaboration of community-based organizations and stakeholders, is absolutely critical.
Western Center focuses on 3 core areas, which is housing, health, and public benefits. The housing team extended the eviction moratorium twice and staved off a tsunami of evictions this year during a health crisis and averting thousands, perhaps, from entering homelessness.
Western Center makes a difference in the lives of the people it serves because it comes alongside community and partners with community members to figure out how we can address the problems that are facing our communities, specifically people impacted by poverty.
Statewide, 18% of adults over 65 years old and 17.8% of children live in poverty.
Black moms are dying at a rate of 4 to 6 times, that of white moms.
We have always appreciated their advances to us and their invitations to participate in important policy work on poverty and particularly on lifting children and families out of poverty.
This organization is making strides on a lot of things that are going to be helpful, not only now, but into the future with respect to housing, with respect to poverty, with respect to food, hunger, all of these things that we think about, we're concerned about, and we feel angry and sad and upset about. Western Center is actually moving to change a lot of these things to improve the lives of the people in California.
In June 2020, 4.8 million Californians in 2.6 million households were receiving CalFresh benefits.
It's one thing to get laws passed, but it's another thing for those laws to actually trickle down and impact the people they were supposed to impact. So we keep pushing and we keep fighting. And so far we've been able to avoid a significant eviction cliff. And we're hoping to keep that momentum and keep that pressure on legislators in California because people need that help right now in the midst of the pandemic.
People of color also continue to face discrimination in housing in California, with African Americans representing 6.5% of the population, but nearly 40% of the unhoused residents.
We bring about change. We improve income security, we improve food security a little better, and we're a voice for affordable housing, and we're an important voice for affordable health care.
The low-income Californian is the everyday person. That is so much. That's a huge chunk of the state. That may be the person experiencing homelessness. It also could be mother of 2 who's struggling to pay the bills. It looks like a lot of different things.
Through the immense efforts of Western Center and many of its partners, the uninsured rate in California came down from 17% before the Affordable Care Act to 7% over the last several years.
We have the leadership, we have an organization with the track record, the experience, and now more than ever, we need Western Center to continue to do what it does best.
The pandemic has, disproportionately affected low-income Californians, but low-income Californians that are mostly, people of color, people with disabilities, people from, various backgrounds, and those folks need assistance, and it's not just overnight. There's not a switch.
There have been several moments throughout the last 15 years or so where immigrant programs were on the chopping block, and Western Center was a great partner to ensure that we did not lose funding for these programs and that individuals still had access to these critical services here at the state level.
We know in this country that we have about a 67% recidivism rate, meaning that 67% of people who have been in prison go back within the first 3 years. And there are 48,000 legal barriers that people face once they have a criminal conviction, and criminal justice debt is a big part of that.
What makes it so compelling to interact with Western Center is the fact that They have such great staff and advocates. They are top-notch attorneys, top-notch advocates who really understand the needs of their clients. It's great to work with them because they also bring a lot of real-world experience and real passion into the work that they do.
I think of Western Center as the superheroes of Medi-Cal, the guardians of the universe for the unheard and the unseen. They play a key role in economic and racial justice in California. The staff are like superheroes. They are out there every day in the state capitol, in the courts, in the media, to protect the rights of the unheard and the unseen.
I had the real opportunity to get to know the staff in an unusual way when I served as co-executive director for 6 months. And I cannot tell you how impressed I was by how engaged and committed and hardworking and most of all caring the staff was, and I know continues to be.
April 2021. Approximately 1 million California households now receive additional emergency food benefits, thanks in part to the settlement of a Western Center lawsuit.
Western Center protects and sets the bar for the quality of service, quality of representation that everyone protecting their rights deserves.
We make a difference because we help provide a voice for people whose voices might not otherwise be heard.
There's a quote that I love that says, "Joy is a revolutionary act." I'm always encouraging the staff at Western Center for us to hold on to our joy as we're in the midst of the different battles we're engaged in on behalf of the communities we serve.
Western Center stands for equality and justice. For more than 50 years, we have never faltered. If you're watching tonight, especially as a guest of your firm or organization, we hope you will consider making a gift. In times filled with troubling news, Western Center is a way to take action and make a tangible difference in California. Text Garden Party to 91999 to give now.
Wow, what a way to start this evening, and we're just beginning. We are Western Center. Wasn't that a wonderful video? You can be part of Western Center too. Text to give now and join us to build a better California for all Californians. Text Garden Party to 91999 to give now. To continue getting this night off to an inspirational start, please join me in welcoming to the screen now former program director at the California Wellness Foundation, former CEO of the California Black Women's Health Project, and a 2009 Western Center Award recipient, Kristal Crawford, Executive Director of the Western Center on Law and Poverty.
Good evening and welcome. What a privilege it is to gather virtually with you this evening as we lift up the life-changing work of Western Center and lift up community champions who inspire us and make a real difference every day. For 55 years, Western Center's mission and work has been transformative, advocating via the legislature and the courts on behalf of Californians experiencing poverty. A little over a year ago, it was an honor for me to take the helm at Western Center in this season of renewed commitment in our community and here at Western Center to fighting for systemic, racial, and economic justice. Building on our 55-year legacy of lessons learned and victories won, Western Center continues to do its part by taking diligent, measurable steps forward to advance human rights, economic dignity, and racial equity. Tonight, we, the staff and board of Western Center, celebrate first and foremost the communities we serve, and also our donors, funders, allies, and community partners. In the words of Ella Baker, we who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Here at Western Center, we know that none of us are free until all of us are free. We are counting on your continued partnership and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristal, for those inspiring thoughts as we get started this evening. It's been a great program so far, and we haven't gotten to the reason we're all here yet, our amazing honorees. Each year, Western Center honors young legal rock stars for their work in fighting for the rights of low-income Californians in vital areas such as housing, healthcare, racial justice, and public benefits. To introduce our first award tonight, the Emerging Advocate Award, please welcome to the screen Nisha Vyas, Western Center attorney and a rock star in her own right.
Hello, my name is Nisha Vyas. I'm a senior attorney with Western Center's housing team. Every year, Western Center honors young legal rock stars for their work in fighting for the rights of low-income Californians in vital areas such as housing, healthcare, racial justice, and public benefits. It's my honor to introduce you to the recipient of our Emerging Advocate Award, Sahar Durrali. Sahar is the Associate Director of Litigation and Policy at Neighborhood Legal Services of Los Angeles County. For over 8 years, she's been litigating in the public interest in the areas of education, civil rights, housing, and previously employment. At Neighborhood Legal Services, Sahar works with advocates across the program, developing impact and affirmative litigation cases in education, housing, and reentry matters. Sahar's litigated against major public entities, banks, public housing authorities, and large institutional landlords. Sahar has also been a leader in racial equity work. For over 4 years, Sahar served on the Racial Identity and Profiling Advisory Board, a state board tasked with eliminating racial profiling in law enforcement. And she served as that body's chair from 2019 to 2020. Western Center's housing team recently partnered with Neighborhood Legal Services and Sahar as co-counsel on a case to protect low-income senior tenants from losing their homes during the COVID-19 pandemic. I can tell you through experience that Sahar is a formidable advocate. She fights tooth and nail for her clients. She more than holds her own against powerful opponents, and they underestimate her at their own risk. And at the same time, she's an absolute delight to work with as a colleague. She's creative, collegial, and a zealous advocate. She's also an incredible mentor for newer attorneys in her program. She encourages them to become emerging leaders in their own right. Congratulations, Sahar. We are so grateful to partner with you in the fight for economic and racial justice.
I'm so honored to be receiving the Emerging Leader Award today from Western Center on Law and Poverty. I'd like to start with a little bit of a personal anecdote. In July 2020, I had my second daughter. This was just 4 months after the COVID-19 pandemic began and rocked our world as people and as advocates for the indigent. In those 4 months prior to having my daughter, I was in the trenches with my fellow advocates at Neighborhood Legal Services and the broader California advocacy community and Western Center on Law and Poverty, trying to stay abreast of a dizzying new set of laws every single day, trying to figure out and wrap our heads around all of the calamitous effects the COVID-19 virus was having on our clients, and all the while trying to do our best to keep our own doors open to the greater public. When I went on leave, I suddenly found myself in the walls of my home in a sort of silence other than with the cries of a colicky baby. And I felt so distanced and removed from the advocacy community at a time of great turmoil at the national, local, and global level. And what I realized in that moment is that legal services for so many of us is not just a vocation, it's not just a job, it's not just somewhere we go every day. It's a community. It's a community where we come together and face some of the greatest challenges for our clients and ourselves together. It's a community where we share space and develop bonds, and I sorely missed that in those months as I watched the events of the world unfold before me. And when I came back from leave, I melded right seamlessly into the communities that the community that Western Center on Law and Poverty creates for us as advocates. As a litigation director, I can unequivocally say, having worked in many areas of law, that the spaces where Western Center is at the helm are different. They are spaces where we come together as advocates and problem solve And Western Center facilitates this community without any ego or grandstanding. I myself have personally been the beneficiary of so much training, formation, technical assistance, and camaraderie from Western Center on Law and Poverty Advocates. As a new attorney in under-resourced offices in Kern County, I always knew I could send the simplest technical assistance requests to the likes of Navneet Graywall, Madeline Howard, and in the past, Stephanie Hefner. And now I have the great fortune of co-counseling with Western Center on a very impactful housing case in one of the rural parts of LA County, alongside Dick Rothschild, Madeline Howard, and Nisha Vyas. Western Center, as we know as advocates, is there for us, fighting for our clients at the state capitol, creating community where we can come together and helping us confront some of the most challenging moments for our indigent clients. And I'm so grateful to be receiving this award from an organization that I admire so deeply, not only for the work they do, but in the compassionate approach they take to the work. So thank you so much again.
Thank you, Nisha and Sahar, for getting our program started this evening. Before we continue to our next honoree, I want to take a moment to say thank you to all of the sponsors and donors to this evening's event. Without their generous support, this important work wouldn't happen. Thank you all so much.
Good evening. I'm Drew Pomerantz of the law firm of Roxborough, Pomerantz, Nye, and Adriani. And on behalf of my colleague Jeff Westerman of the Westerman Law Corporation, the two of us want to thank the Western Center on Law and Poverty for doing the work that it does and for helping all the people that you help. We were so gratified that we could include you as a Cypre recipient in our case, and we thank you again for everything you do and hope that we'll be able to help you again in the future. All the best to you.
Feeling inspired by what you're hearing tonight? You are the reason Western Center can do this amazing work. Your gift tonight will enable Western Center to continue this fight. Text Garden Party to 91999 to give now. Thank you for your support.
Every year, Western Center's advocates select a peer in the legal services community to receive the Mary Burdick's Advocates Award, named after Western Center's longest-serving executive director. This coveted honor recognizes the critical role played by our community partners in achieving our shared goal of improving the lives of low-income Californians. To introduce this award, I am excited to welcome to the screen a man whom many of you know as the go-to expert, who spent the last 4 decades defending or expanding the rights of families and individuals with low incomes. Richard Rothschild, Western Center's Director of Litigation.
In a remarkable 40-year career, Lucy Quattanella has been an international human rights advocate, a Fulbright scholar, a legal aid attorney, and one of the leading Medi-Cal lawyers in California. Let me tell you about just 2 of Lucy's victories. In 2013, nearly 1 million low-income Californians waited for their Medi-Cal applications to be approved, long after the 45 days set by law. Without timely care, many of them suffered and some died, including the son of our lead plaintiff, Francis Rivera. Lucy, working with a team from Western Center and other programs, filed suit. It took 7 years, but after our Supreme Court granted review and remanded, the state finally agreed to discuss settlement. In painstaking negotiations, Lucy persuaded the state to adopt an accelerated enrollment program that will eliminate delays altogether. The other case was Milagro Do. Milagro, of course, meaning miracle in Spanish. In 1996, Congress prohibited states from providing most Medicaid services, arguably including prenatal care, to so-called unqualified aliens. After 2 lawsuits challenging that denial were unsuccessful, Lucy developed an entirely new theory and won an injunction, saving prenatal care for all California women. Lucy won that case while serving as Western Center's health law legislative advocate. Litigation and lobbying are two different full-time jobs, requiring entirely different skills. No Western Center attorney other than Lucy has ever done both at the same time. I can only think of one analogy, so I am honored to introduce our Mary Burdick Advocates Award winner, Lucy Quachinella, the Shohei Ohtani of California Legal Services.
It is such a pleasure for me to be with you all here today to talk about the Western Center on Law and Poverty. And it's such an honor to be receiving an award from this premier public interest law group. I only wish we could all be together in person. I'd like to start by thanking the many individual clients and community-based organizations that make my work possible. First and foremost, the incomparable maternal and child health access with Lynn Kersey at their helm, and Joseph Mafurebo, my colleague in Rwanda, for his work on healthcare and human rights. You know that feeling of coming across something really positive in life, something that helps you confront dispiriting events and see a way forward? Well, for anyone who cares about racial and social justice, the Western Center on Law and Poverty is that kind of a find. First, they do really meaningful, impactful work, going to the heart of problems using multi-pronged strategies. Real change may not happen overnight, but it will in the long run with the efficacy of the Western Center. Second, they know how to collaborate really effectively with a very broad range of stakeholders. Some natural allies, others not so much, but that's what builds the political will toward lasting change. Third, the Western Center is a stable, continuous presence, and I just can't overemphasize enough how important that is for advocates in the field. And it's also rare. So important to have competent people to go to for questions about things like complex trial tactics, appellate work, or savvy legislative lobbying, to name just a few of their areas of expertise. And that gets me to my fourth point. The Western Center attracts really talented, competent, dedicated staff, and that includes the legal assistants and the support staff. These are people who really care about the clients, and you see it in their words and deeds. They also adapt as needed skill sets. For example, data-driven policy has become one of their main areas of expertise in the legislature and administrative agencies. They've also adapted to social media as an advocacy tool. My personal favorite happens to be their focus on the impact of technology on public benefits programs. Things like the eligibility rules that govern healthcare coverage, foster care for kids, food stamps for families. These rules can and do get messed up in the translation to digitization for computers, and the Western Center is on top of it to make sure they get corrected. I began in legal services of Northern California a very long time ago, and we were seeing many eviction cases. I'm now a healthcare expert, but at the time, we really didn't have a good handle on what was causing all the evictions. And an analysis of our docket surprised us. Medical debt had an outsized impact, but who knew how to deal with any of that back in the day? The Western Center proved to be an invaluable resource even back then, helped us figure it out and really build a health law practice, which I'm now very fortunate to do in a private capacity. To this day, the Western Center remains a leader in healthcare, including in this terrible COVID pandemic, which has had such a disproportionate impact on low-wage workers and people of color. Thank you for supporting the Western Center. You're making a really great investment, and thanks to my esteemed colleagues at the Western Center for this award.
We turn now to Western Center's Scholar in Residence, one of Western Center's founders, a former Associate Justice of Court Appeal, and the namesake of our next award, which honors national equal justice leaders for a lifelong body of work and achievement along with his beloved wife. I'm honored to bring to the screen now Barbara and Earl Johnson.
Of all the distinguished men and women chosen for this award over the years, Justice Laurie Zelon is the one about whose many contributions I have the most direct personal knowledge. You see, from 1994 through 2018, Laurie and I worked together, often hand in glove, on access to justice initiatives. First, it was the creation and implementation of the California Commission on Access to Justice, and then later, the Sargent Shriver Council Project. Meantime, starting in 2003, we served on the very same division of the Court of Appeal for 5 years, working closely together on a daily basis. Believe me, nothing can teach you as much about the intellectual capacity, fundamental values, and work ethic of someone as discussing and deciding appellate cases with them, especially the close ones. As no one who knows Laurie well will be surprised to hear, she was the very best colleague one could imagine on all those criteria. Looking beyond my personal experience with Laurie, she has a record of accomplishment that would have qualified her for this award. While being an active litigator, specializing in complex cases at a big law firm, she still managed to serve as president of the LA County Bar Association in 1995-96, only the third woman to be elected to that position. Then in 1997, she became the first board chair of the California Commission on Access to Justice, where she continues to serve on an ex officio advisor. At both the state and national levels, meanwhile, she has occupied leadership positions aimed at expanding and improving pro bono services by private law firms, especially large firms. In fact, her contributions in the pro bono world caused the National Pro Bono Institute to name its annual award the Laurie D. Zelon Pro Bono Award. But I want to focus especially on a specific little-known contribution Laurie made that impacted many of the people in this audience. It occurred when she served as chair of the ABA Standing Committee on Legal Aid and Indigent Defendants during the critical years 1994-1997. It was a critical year because the Gingrich Congress was committed to killing the Legal Services Corporation in a 3-year glide path to oblivion. A 1/3 cut in the budget the first year, another third the second, and then a final year, the remaining 1/3 of the funding. To their credit, the ABA, American Bar Association, gave Laurie and her committee $100,000 and soon $200,000 and asked her to quarterback the profession's campaign to defeat that initiative. It quickly became a massive, multifaceted campaign, developing messages aimed at the general public, crafted with the help of public relations experts, organizing scores of local lawyer committees to target congressmen who were potential supporters, arranging appearances on local radio and television programs. And Lori herself, rather than the ABA president, presented the ABA's case to the Congress during hearings. All of this was Lori's responsibility of chair of that campaign, an effort that proved ultimately successful when, on July 23rd, 1996, after hours of debate on the House floor, 56 Republicans broke with the party's leadership and voted to save LSC and thus the funding it supplies to local legal services programs. So for anyone here who works for or serves on the board of a legal services program now receiving funding from the Legal Services Corporation, you would seem to owe a big thanks to Lori Zelon for her major role in saving that organization from destruction during its darkest hour. And so, Justice Zelon, I am delighted and indeed honored to present you with this Equal Justice Award. It has been too long coming.
Congratulations, Lori. Well done. Thank you, Earl. I'm so honored to receive the award that bears your name and grateful that you're presenting it. We've been collaborators for justice for many years, and that makes this even more special for me. And many thanks to the Western Center for the privilege of this recognition. The work you do and help others to do makes an enormous difference for so many people whose faces we too often do not see and whose voices might otherwise never be heard. I've always done the work to make the idea of equal justice a reality and not just an ideal, because I believe justice belongs to the community. It is ours to treasure, to protect, and to expand. But it is not just ours as a justice community, but instead the whole community's. People in need often have problems with legal solutions, but they may not recognize that, or even if they do, may not know where to begin. They turn instead to trusted voices they know, their religious leaders, their social service providers, and others. When we in the legal community partner with those people in the larger community, those who stand on the front lines for those in need, we enhance justice. And so, while providing direct legal services as lawyers through legal aid and pro bono is critical, so too is making those connections and providing the community with the tools to guide people in need of legal assistance. This is not a new problem, but where we stand now, too many people try to preserve their rights alone. Everything the center does is aimed at assisting them to find the solutions to their problems, and I hope that my efforts, working with the center and so many collaborators here in California and around the country, has advanced that cause that we all share. I can't let this time pass without thanking other people, but because I never did this work alone, we'd be here all night. But there are 3 people in particular who have shared my life and supported my work. My husband, David George, has stood by me and made it possible for me to do what I have done for more than 41 years. Our sons, Jeremy and Daniel George, were there even when I was away spending time on this work, encouraging me and letting me know they were proud. So, to the 3 men in my life, I do not have enough words to truly thank you. This is a time of opportunity. The federal government prepares to reopen the Justice Department's Office of Equal Access to Justice, and our state government has made significant investments in access. This year marks the expansion of the Equal Access Fund, one of the first projects of the California Commission on Access to Justice, to $70 million. So we must seize that opportunity to continue the work we share and to make real the promise of equal justice for all. We can, and I know we will. So thank you again for this recognition and for the work you do every day.
The talent and passion of our honorees this evening is palpable, and we're not done yet. Let me just take a moment here to thank you all for joining us this evening to help celebrate these incredible honorees. Thank you. Are you feeling inspired by what you're hearing tonight? You, the donors and supporters of Western Center, are the true heroes tonight. If you can, will you consider making another gift now to support the mission of Western Center? Text Garden Party to 91999 to give now. Our next presenter is well known and well respected by many of you. To present this year's Art and Advocacy Award, please welcome to your screen the co-chair of Western Center's Board of Directors, David Elson.
I am pleased to award the Western Center's Art and Advocacy Award to documentary filmmaker Frida Mack. She has been nominated 5 times for the Academy Award, and she won the Academy Award for her film about Maya Lin, who designed the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. Her subject matter of her career in documentary film spans the entire range of subjects that really come up in terms of human experience, and oftentimes she focuses on social justice issues. She's been honored by the American Film Institute and the International Documentary Film Association. I'd like to tell you about a couple of my favorite films. One of them was Ruth Justice Ginsburg in Her Own Words, which recently came out this year on the Stars Channel. 2 of my other favorites include the Anita Speaking Truth to Power about Anita Hill, and G-Dog about Los Angeles' beloved father Greg Boyle and his Homeboy Industries. Both those films were chosen by the State Department to be displayed at embassies around the world. One other film that recently came out was The Donut King, which describes the remarkable story of how Southern California donut shops, the entire industry, came to be dominated by Cambodian refugee families. Frida has been honored numerous times. She's appeared on campuses all over the country. She established a workshop for aspiring filmmakers, and most recently she started the Action Project, which uses media to fight Asian racism. She's going to be talking about that right now. And with that, I present my friend, Frida Mack.
Designing the piece, I knew that I had to ask myself, what is a memorial's purpose? Especially, what is a memorial's purpose in the 20th century?
Who here knows about Anita Hill?
I am here to be political. I am here to be a citizen in a pluralist democracy.
How come the Homeboy Industries? He said, are you on parole or probation?
You say you don't work with gangs, you work with gang members.
Gang violence is not about anything. It's just the language of kids who've given up.
Is it hard to become a Supreme Court justice because you're a woman?
I did very well in law school. It was not possible to do much better. There was not a single law firm in the whole city of New York that would invite me to come even for an interview. I suspected that the door was closed because of my sex, so the barriers were there.
Thank you, David, for those generous and kind remarks. I'm honored and thrilled to receive the Art and Advocacy Award from the Western Center, an organization I so greatly admire, a pioneer in over 50 years and advocating for our most vulnerable families. The Western Center on Law and Poverty is a beacon to us who believe in justice and equity for all. By this award, you shine a light on my work as a director who is drawn to stories about characters often at a crossroads in their lives and who are willing to stand up for what is right. Whether it be Anita Hill testifying about sexual harassment or Maya Lin defending her design to help our nation heal from the wounds of war. These films and the work of the Western Center are united in themes of human dignity and social justice. In my newest film, On Justice Ginsburg and the Law, I was aware of how the core ideas of our democracy guided her, and I believe influenced you in this celebration. The ideas taken from the preamble of the Constitution, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union, and from the words inscribed on the front of the Supreme Court, equal justice under law. These ideas remind me about how we, gathered today as allies, believe in advocating for the common good, and as the great Congressman John Lewis encouraged, believe in getting into good trouble. Thank you so much for this wonderful award.
Tonight keeps getting better and better, doesn't it? Thank you again for joining us to celebrate the talent and passion of this year's honorees and to lift up the important work done by Western Center. We have gathered an impressive group of honorees this evening, but you're pretty impressive too. Many of you with us tonight are donors and supporters of Western Center. We couldn't do what we do without you. Thank you for your past support, and we hope you will consider making an additional gift now. Perhaps in honor of one of these amazing honorees, or just in honor of the mission of Western Center. Every dollar we raise tonight makes a difference. Text Garden Party to 91999 to give now. But we're not done yet. Our last award tonight, the Brinsley Award, was named in honor of former Western Center Board Chair John Brinsley and his activist wife Louise, and celebrates passionate service to Western Center, whether through pro bono activities, leadership, or philanthropy. To introduce our last honoree this evening, please welcome back to your screen, Kristal Crawford, Western Center's Executive Director.
The one and only Honorable Holly J. Mitchell. She reminds me of the great abolitionist Sojourner Truth, both in her impact and her stature. Holly is a truth teller and a truth liver who has mastered the intricacies of public policy and brings public policy to life for her constituents and also for the broader community. Her powerful, powerful journey, starting as a Coro Fellow and rising to a leadership role in the California State Senate, and now on the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, inspires me. I stand on her shoulders in so many ways. As a former executive director of the California Black Women's Health Project, and now as a leader of the Western Center on Law and Poverty team, on which Holly served for many years. We honor you and celebrate you, Holly. We are so proud of you. Thank you for all you do and have done for the communities we serve. We love you, we honor you, we thank you. Congratulations.
Good evening to all of you attending the Western Center on Law and Poverty's Garden Party. I am Supervisor Holly Mitchell, and I'm proud to be spending a little time with you and deeply honored to be an honoree this year and be one of the recipients of your award. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. You know, my history with Western Center goes way back to when I was a young committee consultant with then State Senator Diane Watson on the Senate Health and Human Services Committee, and then as a member of the Western Center staff. You know that we share a sense of values, but I can't tell you the lessons learned from the many deeply committed Western Center employees who I had the pleasure of working with kind of tangentially when I was a committee consultant, and then working alongside collaboratively when I was in the Sacramento office working on your health advocacy. Amazing names like Marjorie Swartz and Casey McKeever and Christine Minahan, Peter Detweiler and Lucy Quachinella. Deep appreciation for the organizations that I partnered with, MCH Access and Health Access. You know, Mary Burdick is who hired me, and then I worked under the leadership of both Deborah Cantrell and Pegeen Grayson, and all the amazing work we did on behalf of California residents who needed us to stand in the gap. You know, I did Medi-Cal streamlining over and over again. We launched Healthy Families and went to the table every day, right, Yolanda Vera, to make sure that a formerly 33-page application that was filled with a bunch of questions that nobody knew why we were even asking was tailored down to a 3-page application to get as many families who qualified to sign up. I remember sitting in a meeting with some Medi-Cal department head who shall remain nameless and thinking to myself, you know, if you all just did your jobs and made these entitlement programs and programs that people should have access to efficiently and easily, if you did your jobs, I wouldn't have to. I'm not sure why a Western Center has to exist to push the envelope to make you deliver high quality government services. And that aha moment has followed me throughout the rest of my career as a member of the State Assembly and the State Senate and now LA County Board of Supervisors. And so Western Center will always hold a special place in my heart. It is where I was working when I became a mother, and our amazing secretary in Sacramento and others were so supportive to me during that really important, scary as hell time in my life with a brand new baby. I have amazing pictures of a brand new newborn Ryan on my shoulder as I have a code section open trying to figure out something when I was still out on family leave. I remember bringing Ryan in a stroller to one of our legal aid workshops here in LA and to our annual convening at the Sierra Health Foundation in Sacramento. So I was living what we were experiencing in terms of trying to make sure that low-income California residents could live in houses that were mold-free, could manage their application to Medi-Cal without having to go into a welfare office, could have fewer quarterly asset tests. So some of those victories I was able to be a part of at Western Center, but some of those battles played out years later, and I was happy beyond your imagination to be able to continue to carry your water as a city legislator and push some of those final classist, racist, sexist policies over the finish line, to bring us into an era when money was really no longer the big issue, and bring us into an era where the state's general fund was more solvent and we could dust off some of those old policy ideas that originated right there with you, with the attorneys and advocates at Western Center. So, Western Center, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Tonight we party at the garden party, but tomorrow we all roll up our collective sleeves and go back to work and continue to fight for every LA County resident, every California resident who we know deserves access to the resources they need to grow old with dignity and to let their children thrive. I want to congratulate my sister friend, Kristal Crawford. I'm so proud of you in your new leadership role at the Western Center. Know that I got your back because I know you have mine as we continue to fight on behalf of low-income residents of this great state. I appreciate you. Be well.
On behalf of everyone at Western Center, thank you again to all of our generous sponsors this evening. Your steadfast support truly means so much. Thank you. Western Center stands for equality and justice. For more than 50 years, we have never faltered. Before you log off tonight, we hope you will consider making a gift if you haven't already. In times filled with troubling news, Western Center is a way to take action and make a tangible difference in California. Text Garden Party to 91999 to give now. Through the lens of economic and racial justice, Western Center on Law and Poverty fights in courts, cities, counties, and in the Capitol to secure housing, healthcare, and a strong safety net for Californians with low incomes. Many systems keep people in poverty, from institutionalized racism to unjust and unequal economic structures. Western Center addresses those factors in every aspect of their work and calls out the ways they oppress people experiencing poverty. By joining us for tonight's event, you've joined this fight. Thank you. As we close out this evening, let's take one last moment to appreciate that despite the pandemic and being miles apart across California, this incredible community has come together tonight to celebrate amazing honorees, their accomplishments, and the work of Western Center. Thank you for joining us, and safe travels from your couch, your kitchen counter, or your socially distanced office to wherever you're headed next. We hope to see you back with us again next year.